Hello, you're all back, I hope. Nice to see. Well, I can't see you, obviously. So, I am now back in the office. I apologise if I start looking a bit red in the face and I start melting in front of you, because it turns out that once again the air conditioning in this building is not working properly. So if I can step outside the door, I will freeze to death because the aircon is going mad. In the office here, no, I'm going to be cooked like a baked potato. But let's get on and let's whiz through this lecture. It doesn't take too long. Again, I remind you that I don't give you all the information you need. A lot of it you have to do through your own personal research. The advantage of that is you can follow issues that you discover that you find more interesting to yourself. Okay, and it's quite a complex thing. So let's have a little go. So we'll go. I mean, generally, if I go for this one, motivation. We're going to consider mostly motivation here. So you need motivation. You've got to have a need. If we're talking in the workplace, especially early on in your career, you're looking for qualification, experience, and money. My point in time towards the end of my career, I've paid off my mortgage and all that stuff. I'm lucky. If I had stayed in Great Britain, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in Australia. Coming here was very helpful from that point of view. Okay, you need a desire. Again, that can come down, desire for new qualifications, desire to be able to be experienced enough to move to a better job, desire for more money or promotions. Then you've got goals. These are things you set yourself, which are really tied in with the first two quite well. But you have goals that you're working to. Those goals need to be planned, so you've got to plan how to do it. In my case, because I wanted to get involved in heritage properties and things, I had to plan to go and do a master's degree in architectural conservation, so I understood what was going on. You move into action, which is actually doing it. That could be doing another course or another degree or training or moving location or office or even changing job or changing career possibly. And then finally you get success. That's when it all starts to come together. Now this is a circle. Remember, it's a circle. So when you achieve success, you move on to the new need and you go around it all again. Okay, so there are certain phases in life when a need circle like this comes into effect. One of them is when you get married, another is when you have children, and you can predict these life events that are going to trigger it on. Obviously, there's professional work as well, professional goals that come into it. So let's have a look. So we'll start off with motivation. Okay. As it says, it's the process that basically kicks off, guides you, and maintains all your behaviours, your goal-orientated behaviours, your desires that you're going for. You've got to be motivated to get them. So we'll have a little look here. So very important to remember, especially when you're dealing with other people, when you become a manager and you've got staff under you. What motivates one person doesn't motivate another. Not necessarily. We all think on the basis of it, we're motivated by money. And yes, early on, definitely. When I wasn't sure what I wanted to do 20 odd years ago, I did some career counselling and they did a lot of tests. And it turned out that I am not motivated by money, apparently. I'm motivated by service and quality. Maybe that's why I like lecturing. They certainly don't pay vast amounts compared to what I used to get in industry and work with myself. But so you've got to rate or value your needs, and they can change from cultures. They can change between men and women. They can change between industries. They can change between location even. Some people do like living in the middle of nowhere, out in the countryside, and some like the city, and their motivations might be different. Generally, you've got the intensity of your motivation. What direction it's aiming at, what is that you're trying to do, and are you persistent? So you need intensity, direction, and persistence to create reasonable motivation. And they can be lined up with the fact that we have needs. There's three main needs. One is a need for achievement, whatever you mean that means to you. A need for power, again, that's down to what it means to you particularly. And for affiliation, for people to meet with you, to like you, to communicate with you, to be social with you. You might be one of your main needs. Personally, I'm quite happy to sit on my own doing my work. I don't need groups of people around me all the time. But as I said, motivation is different between every person. And when you've got staff and that to deal with, or you're being managed by a manager, it's good to remember this. Okay? If you understand what motivates someone, then you know how to interact with them a bit better. There are two different types of motivation, technically speaking. And you can either have the extrinsic motivations. There's my dyslexia coming in, and they're generated from outside of yourself. They're not your personal goals. They're coming from your environment. Okay, and that'll involve rewards like trophies, money, recognition. You know, you like to win events, take in competitions, be told you're really good at something. The praise bit can be difficult to find sometimes nowadays. And then there's the intrinsic motivations. They're from inside. They're your individual goals and ethics, really. And it's like you would like doing, it says, a crossword puzzle, or maybe making a plastic airfix model kit just to de-stress, or whatever you do. That could also be doing volunteer or charity work, I suppose. But if you understand someone's motivation, and my motivation to lose weight is not working yet, as we can sort of see, much to my doctor's annoyance. It's bad being diabetic and fat. I prefer cuddly. But understanding it helps you improve the efficiency of the people probably working with you or below you, under you, is working towards their known goals. You need to know what the goals are to assist them. You can help people take action if you understand what motivates them. You can encourage them to engage in health-orientated behaviours. Now, that might seem to be a strange thing to include, but in my generation, there's been a lot of people suffering from mental problems, burnout, eating the wrong stuff. Nowadays, we're looking that healthy people are more productive and happier people, so it's a reasonable thing to put in there. Help people avoid unhealthy behaviours. Some people can get addicted, they drink too much, they can smoke, they can take drugs, they can ride motorbikes too quick, whatever it is. It can be, we all do it when we're younger, I suppose, to an extent, but as you get older, it's something you really should be able to control a little bit more. You can help people feel more in control, and you can improve their overall well-being and happiness. That comes in, I'm talking about satisfaction at work mainly here. Look at the three components in motivation. Okay, so you've got activation. That's the decision to behave in a certain way and do a certain thing. All right, so you're deciding, I'm going to start another degree or whatever. There's persistence or perseverance, as I would say. Once you've made that decision, that activation, you've got to stick with it, and you've got to do things to achieve it. And then there's the intensity. It depends, sort of linked to the perseverance part of you, but the intensity is how hard you work at it. You've got a medium intensity, it could take you twice as many years to achieve it than if you were really intense and got it out of the way quickly. Motivation is difficult to maintain. We all have our down times. We all fade off sometimes. So really, you've got to keep your goals realistic. Focus on things that actually matter to you, not other people particularly. And that's difficult to say in the workplace because obviously your managers and everybody are going to have certain goals they want. May not fit with you completely. So you've got to make sure you focus on the ones that really matter to you as much as you can. If you're doing a task or something that's just overwhelming you and there's far too much of it, and I've had that happen to me, that's really what happened when I spent my short period working for government. And try to break it up into little bite-sized chunks that you can deal with. Okay? That's a much easier way of doing it. Instead of looking at the massive picture that's about to drop on your head, smash it into little bits, like little snowflakes, and deal with them one after the other. You can improve your confidence. I mean, you can have people who mentor you, telling you you're good at things, you can learn off them, you can do some training, but you can improve your confidence. Sometimes you can be in an environment that only likes to say you've got something wrong and doesn't say well done for something right. Unfortunately, very common. Always remind yourself about what you achieved in the past, all the good things, and try to push the failures to the background. I'm not saying you forget the failures, because you learn from them, but don't linger on them. Try to linger more on your successes. It's mentally better for you, really. If you're a bit upset, insecure about something, try to find ways to improve it. Try to get some more self-control over of what you're doing. This may mean you have to sort of speak to, say, the work environment, your manager more. You need to get a mentor, or you need whatever. You might need to be changed from one work group to another. And these things we don't know till we try them. These come out once we're doing it. So you can't preempt these, particularly, until you know what you're like. This is where the personal traits bit comes in. There are some pitfalls, and you've got to watch out for these, because these could stuff your motivation up very easily. Don't go for quick fixes or all or nothing thinking, because there never really is a quick fix or one, all or nothing. Things can take a little while to sort out and deal with. That might mean taking advice elsewhere or whatever. So always remind yourself that reaching a goal isn't instantaneous, and it's going to be a little bit painful sometimes, but you will get there. Maybe not on your own, maybe with help from someone, but you will get there. So keep that in mind. Don't sit there at your desk with your head in your hands going, I can't do this. I'm not going to. Not good. A good organisation wouldn't let you do that anyway, but you've got to find them. Don't think that one size fits all, that one solution fits everything. Just because it worked once doesn't mean it's suitable for what you're going through at the moment. Be careful with that one. Okay? Be very careful. A lot of people fall into that trap, and that fits into some of these leadership styles we talked about. Okay? See if you can see the connection with that to a leadership style. Leadership, well, we did look at leadership, didn't we, last week? So all I want you to do is this week is just think about different types of leaders. It could be people you're working with, it could be your boss, it could be anybody, it could be your parents. I don't know, they could be the leaders. They've all got something to add beneficially to you, and I've given you a few there, and I'm hoping you can recognise all these people, because they are or were well-known leaders, apart from maybe the bottom right-hand one, but that depends on your politics, I suppose. I would have fired him, just like he used to fire people. But so think about them. So we've got Musk there, who's got lecky cars and space programs. Then we got the North Korean gentleman, who's a complete dictator apparently, although he did get on well with Trumpy. Then you got Steve Jobs, and look what he achieved. But he was quite an autocrat, so he probably wasn't the nicest person to work for. Bill Gates, Quentin Tarantino next to him there. So we've got into the film world. So you're there. Then you got Putin from Russia. I don't know. You can do your research on him, make your mind up. Used to be a KGB officer. Apparently he's very, very rich. I wonder where the money comes from. Then you got old Adolf there. We all know about him. If you don't know much about Adolf, I suggest you do a little bit of research and reading as to what a wonderful person he was and the goals he set himself. Yeah. You got Zuckerberg there. Zuckerberg, well, it comes into the point of view about what sort of leader is he. And remember, there were the rumours, and there was the film about Facebook being set up, that he actually nicked the idea off of some other student when he was at Harvard. And there was a payout according to the film. I don't know how accurate that was. Don't know what sort of leader he is. You can see him when he's in Senate committee meetings when they're interviewing him about the, over influence that social media and high tech companies have got nowadays. And then you've got Trumpy. So, Trumpy, yes, interesting man. Luckily he's gone, I think, from being in charge of the big red button, that is. So, consider these and consider people you know as leaders, okay? So, I just throw this up a week after we looked at them because you've had time to think about it. And then there's some things that we need to think about because personal traits. Now, there are, from a lot of research goes on, there are personal traits that are related to your age, or when you were born, which is your age. Most of you out there, I think, would probably be what we call Generation Y, born between 82 and 2000. There may be some of you have been born just outside that now. So we just need to be aware of all these. So that's known as millennials. All right. The generation before was Generation X, and the one before that is baby boomers. I'm apparently a baby boomer, a child of the space age, which really started in '61, and I was born in 1961. But I'll talk about that when I get to it because I don't totally agree with my long experience of myself, which is painful sometimes. Okay, Millennium Generation. You're the biggest group of the working population coming up, so you need to know how to interrelate with each other and how your background and beliefs are going to affect you managing the people coming up behind you, okay, and how to deal with the managers above you, which probably X's or baby boomers. They might be Z's. I don't go into those. You can look all this up on the internet. It's actually quite interesting. Big psychological research into this. Okay, so there's characteristics that I'm assuming you're all going to be millennials. I apologise if you're not, but these are the characteristics that research and older people like me generally think apply to you. I don't agree with all of them, to be honest. Apparently, you all grew up with technology. Well, we know that. You like your smartphones and your gadgets. You're normally using them all the time. I can see that when I've got students around and trying to talk to them and they're all on their phones. And it's getting to the stage now where colleges, universities and schools are banning phones during the normal day hours. And I think that's a good thing to get your concentration going. You should try that at home yourself. If you're going to do some study and research or write something, then just put your phone in the other room or something and concentrate. You like to communicate by electronic means, email, text messaging, social media platforms, even with your friends, you'll communicate that way. Okay, I remember my son going to his formal evening a few years ago. He's graduated down there, and I took him there, and big round tables, about 12 or 14 sitting round the table. And all I could do when they sat down, I went back to say, see you later on, and all of them around the table, with their little heads down, with their little phones, they weren't talking to each other. They weren't, no, I swear they were texting the person next to them. You've got to break out of this. Okay, you've got to be more interactive on a personal human level. It's all got its place, and I used Facebook. I suppose technically I do. I don't have a Facebook account anymore. My dog does. So the family keep in touch with what my dog Dexter says. So if you go Facebook and go Dexter Stone, you will see my dog's musing on life, which is possibly mine, I don't know. And apparently you can't imagine, and I know this, several students and my son's girlfriend have gone on about this. They can't imagine not having the internet or a cell phone. Grew up without the damn things. I can't imagine it. Now one day there may be a solar flare and it all stops working. What are you going to do? One day, at the moment as we record this, Myanmar has just had a military coup and they've turned it all off. They've turned Facebook off, all the other ones. the internet's been suspended, everybody doesn't know what to do. So it could happen at the drop of a hat for various reasons. So at least be aware on how to talk to people, you know. Apparently, the fast track lifestyle, the earn lots of money, work hard, which apparently is me, don't think so, got no appeal for you millennials. You're more family orientated. You're willing to trade higher pay for fewer billable hours or flexible schedules or a better work-life balance. I can see that a few years into your careers. I think at the start of your careers that may not hold quite so well because you need the money and everything. But I can see you moving to that. It took me until I got almost 50 before I felt like that. I think you probably feel like that in your late 20s or 30s, like my two boys are. Older generations, it says, think that's a bit narcissistic. We think it's a lack of commitment and discipline. I don't. And I know a lot of people my age who are managing, etc., don't believe that anymore. They did when it first started to appear, and they found they couldn't keep new staff very long if they used the old established ways. But you pick your place to work. It says you normally prioritise family over work. I definitely do that now, but it's taken me a long time. So whether you think that's true or not, I don't know. This is where you look inside yourself for your own traits and beliefs. This is all from psychological research, by the way, most of this. Apparently, you were pampered by parents, helicopter parents, did always over you, apparently. I certainly wasn't that to my boys, I tell you. Maybe your parents didn't let you make mistakes, and we learn from mistakes, and I've said this before, you've got to learn from mistakes, you have to make mistakes. You're confident, apparently you're ambitious, and you're achievement orientated. Nothing wrong with any of those as far as I'm concerned, as long as it doesn't make you arrogant or think that you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth and you're going to be spoon-fed everything you need to know, which is not what happens at university and definitely not in my lectures. I facilitate you to find out stuff yourself. And if you find stuff out and come and talk to me about it, fantastic. You find stuff out, you go into the teams and you talk about it in the relevant week. So all your peers can discuss it as well, because they've probably got experience of it as well, especially if you've got some slightly older peers in there. So you've got high expectations of your employers. I always had high expectations anyway, and they always fell short. Never worked anyway, apart from when I worked for myself, of course. Everywhere else fell short. You like new challenges because you get bored easily. That's definitely me. God, do you think I was born too early? I think I probably were. And you're not afraid to question authority, which I'm not either, but it can cause you an awful lot of grief, especially if the authority is older. You want meaningful work. You want to understand why you're doing the work, and you want some sort of learning curve, a solid developmental curve. So there are certain ways of leadership. If you go back and you look at that last week, you'll find some don't fit that. So when you grew up, you millennial boys and girls, as it said, you did team sports and you went to play groups and all that sort of stuff. So you value teamwork and you seek the input and the pat on the back from others. You're the true no person left behind generation. That makes me laugh. In Australia that would be called mateship. So you want to be included in everything. Now I do struggle a little bit with this. I do know a lot of millennials. I know a lot through my sons and everything, and I do some consultancy for businesses where I go and do a bit of continuing professional development and teamwork building things for them. There's a grain of truth in this, but Most generations are into teamwork because it's the only way work was done. So it doesn't mean you have to like it. Personally, I'm not a great team player. I'll do what I need to, and I will help someone if I see they need help. But generally, I like to sit in my office doing my work, or at home doing my work, and be responsible for my performance, my outcomes. Probably why I like working for myself, dealing with my clients directly, and all the clients I kept working for came back to me again and again. If I took on clients and I didn't like getting on with them, I wouldn't work for them again. I had the freedom to decide this, and sometimes that upset a client. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to do this. They seem to think you had to do everything they wanted you to do. And they'd start offering more money for it. I go, no, you were too difficult to work for, or I didn't like the work, or I didn't like your ethics. That can be difficult to do unless you're the manager of your own business, I suppose. Apparently you crave feedback. You want to be in the loop. We need to pat you on the back all the time, reassure you, because you're so uncertain of yourselves. Everybody likes feedback if it's positive. Okay? Everybody. It says here, we're talking about the Generation Y, you millennials. You like having a mentor to guide you and that, but that's always been the way as far as I've experienced. This is where baby boomers, that's me, we come in handy to you. It says though mostly retired. I've still got a few years to go yet before I retire to my yacht, disappear off around the Mediterranean, if I'm ever allowed to leave Australia again, that is. We've got a lot to offer you there. We've been there, we've seen it, we've cocked it up, and we've succeeded at it, and we can pass all that on to you. An interesting little story here. I was the South East Queensland manager for facilities, a big engineering company called GHD, and I was there for a few years, and I developed the team from myself into 10 people, getting contracts from state government, everything like that, and commercial organisations. But then the general financial crisis, 2008, 2009, the GFC came, and the knee-jerk reaction was, and by the way, GHD had expanded far too quickly. I sat there and watched them expand and thought, it's not going to go well, this. They had to unload an awful lot of staff very quickly. And they had like the Nazis had the night of the long knives. We just all got called in and we were handed our redundancy papers. And it was basically all the middle managers. Which basically middle to upper middle managers, I was there, were let go, and they kept the honchos at the top, who I think were out of touch with what was going on really, and the people at the bottom who didn't have any skills or experience. They may have their degrees and everything, and we used to mentor them all the time. Well, they lost that mentoring ability completely, and it was about 6 months later that I was informally contacted by them, or by a particular person there, asking if I'd go back to do some consultancy work to sort out several contracts that had gone completely wrong because the staff were unaware of the pit holes that were coming and didn't know how to sort them out. So yes, you want to pick people who are willing to share their advice and mentor you. They don't have any axe to grind. They know that they've got the knowledge and that, and you just need to get on well with them. And have a free two-way conversation where you can go with problems and you can go benefits and to thank them and they can help you. It's you just need it. So you need to find those people. It can be difficult in younger companies, I have to admit. Downsides of you. Oh, there has to be downsides, doesn't there? You're always looking for something new. That was me actually. New, better. You get bored, I suppose. I completely understand that. Apparently it's uncommon for you to stay with a firm. It's normal to stay with them for only 2 or 3 years. I'm here, apart if I exclude working for myself, running my own consultancy, if I exclude that, I've now been at CQU for 4 years, and I think that's almost the longest I've ever stayed anywhere. Amazing, isn't it, really? And I'm only just beginning to get grey hairs now because I've been here so long. So if I was employing at the moment and I got the CVs, the resumes in, I would definitely see a varied work history, which I don't think is a problem. I think it means you bring a lot of skills and a lot of experiences to the job. One thing employers can fall in, especially government employers and things like that, they like to appoint people that are just like the people they've already got. They like to clone themselves, and that is a dead-end way. You need new ideas to come in. Might be uncomfortable, you might refer to as a disruptive influencer or innovator, but you need that. You don't need everybody to do that, but you do need some. And it says there, I've just said the next paragraph there, quite. So you don't stick with the jobs. I do not think that's a problem. Okay, so a lot of older managers out there might see that as a problem, but I think the days of staying in a job for life are gone. Generation X. What were they? I can't remember. Generation X. 1965 to 1980. So this isn't me, apparently. And I can account for this, definitely. Definitely more direct than my experience of millennials. Much more direct. They like having open, robust conversations. Okay? We don't, or Generation X, really don't care about the niceties. It's like black and white. Go. Generation X's, they'll embrace feedback. You could end up managing some of these people, but probably working for them, and you need to understand this a bit. They embrace feedback, but they don't like negative feedback. Okay? They don't like it, but they don't let it keep them up. They don't worry about it. They push it to one side in a little box. Good thing to do, to be honest. Apparently millennials, you can be shocked with critical feedback. I get critical feedback every time I speak to my manager. Really? It's not keeping me awake, because I get really nice feedback from most of the students and other people. It all depends on your position and what you see. When you're on high, you may not see the detail of all the lengths. Okay? Generation X, they like work-life balance. Okay? And they started to bring that idea in that you are benefiting from now. It says hybrid relationship with technology because they were already at work when the technology started to come in. I remember the first place I worked in London, the very first word processors being installed. They were massive. And they are big cathode ray tube things with a green screen. No graphics, just text. No mouse, it was all done by the keyboard. And when the cooling fan kicked on, the secretary, and we had secretaries who did our typing, we dictated it and gave it to them. It sounded like a bloody jetliner taking off, they were so loud. And only posh people, only important people got a terminal. So they grew up with it, didn't have the internet until much later on, but they have adopted it. They do use the internet and everything. They're not stupid. They do use, you'll find they're all into the specific software, your CAD and your building information management and whatever else we talked about. They're all into that. They do use their mobile phones, but generally, for friends I know, they're not attached to them all the time. They do get left at home quite often, and if it's a work phone, it's quite often turned off at 5 o'clock on Friday and doesn't turn on until 8 o'clock on Monday, give or take an hour. But the great thing is we love emails. Well, sorry, they love emails because I'm not one of them. Apparently Generation X are more collaborative. Oh, I've seen that all the time. What's that last bit? Oh yeah, interesting. The lack of the internet and all the technical tools that we take for granted nowadays affected them in ways on how they conduct their business. They have to create relationships with their colleagues and their clients face to face. This is where the long lunch used to come from, and drinks after work, and we actually built our relationships in this way. So yeah, we don't need phones and things like that. The interpersonal skills are better. It says this from research, but also my experience is, and it's a generalisation, that the interpersonal skills of the millennials are not as developed as those of the previous generations. Okay, so they made, Generation X and the baby boomers as well, made much stronger connections in their workplace and with their clients. It's something you can all do as well if you wish to, but didn't proofread it, look. Learn by your mistakes. Baby boomers. Now this is meant to be me, okay? Motivated by work, apparently. We've got good work ethics and don't shy away from hard work. Well, yeah, I'd say that was true. It's waned a little bit now. No, that's the wrong thing to say. No, it's more focused than it was now. So I'm focused on certain things and not the whole job now. There's the advantage of lecturing. I can focus on certain subject areas. Some of them I really find interesting. Some of them, someone has to do them, and I'll do the best I can with them. I quite like doing this one, by the way. Apparently, I've got smart decision-making abilities. Some people would disagree with that. Some people would agree with it. So, we like logic. We like analysis, the reliability. We like numbers. We like things to be proven to us. I question everything and have to have it proved to me, or I have to prove it myself. Apparently, we're highly disciplined. Yeah, I suppose I am actually. Unless it comes to my diet, where I still haven't lost the weight yet. But we're quite self-assured, mature. Well, that's because we're all about to retire, isn't it? We're obviously mature. No, mature in our outlook and that. I have to say that's not me. I have a very strange, sarcastic sense of humour. Often use it at the wrong times. But c'est la vie. We can be independent, which I definitely am independent, and I'm very responsible, even though it may not appear to be, because I've got a dodgy sense of humour at times. Healthy as well as analytical decision-making skills. Yeah, it's true. You can learn a lot from us there, but there won't be many of us left by now. Probably best while I'm lecturing before I can hand over whatever I can. You can speak to me about anything on the side and I'll help you as much as I can. Competitive. I've settled down now. Excelling in their professional lives. That's probably why I ran my own consultancy a couple of times, because I found it stifling working for other places. And I did have personal goals and I did achieve them, mostly through working for myself. Performing better than colleagues, yeah, I performed a better service myself. Highly resourceful, mainly because we grew up without all the IT and everything, so we are resourceful, we know our ways around things. Confident, yeah, that can come across as arrogant and cocky, by the way. Disciplined in nature, liberal for cultural identities. It's interesting that the research came up with that, since there's been so much racism and sexism through especially the 70s and the 80s. Which is the main period when this generation were really getting into the workplace. It fits me perfectly. Absolutely fits me perfectly. I have no problem with anybody. I treat every person, regardless, as a person, and no problem with them. But if someone proves to be a pain, or they cross me or something, then regardless of where or what they are, I will not like them. But that's an individual decision. Okay? We're quite concentrated mentally. Yes, we are quite concentrated. I drifted off there, it might have been Alzheimer's. But we are. That was the baby boomers. So that was Generation Y's and the baby boomers. And reflection. Now this is really important. I try to introduce this in my first year lectures, and I think it should be in every unit you do, because you're going to need to do it when you're at the workplace, and you can use it in the work environment, in your personal environment, whatever you want. But reflection is a absolute must, and we all do it, by the way, but we don't know we're doing it sometimes. And some of the most successful business people around have given interviews and talked about reflecting. Okay, so they all do it. You can formalise it a touch. Okay, so you notice, I mean, up here I actually give web addresses that you probably have to type in yourself or copy and paste off the PDF. Okay, so this is the Queensland University of Technology. Whenever when I'm researching these units, these lectures, and I find something that says it really well, I won't try and paraphrase or rewrite it. I will lift it straight off and pop it in and reference it. Okay, don't reinvent the wheel if you don't need to. It's not plagiarism as long as you reference it, and I give the website because I'm only getting a little bit of it, and you might want to have a look at the whole thing. You might want to do a quick scan for 5 minutes. I recommend that, actually. So it's very clear. If you reflect on your experiences, okay, have an account for your current understandings, and this happens when you have a failure and you have a success. It's not just the failures, all right? You're trying to pinpoint by reflecting. With a failure, what went wrong? What were the warning signs? What did I do to correct it? Was there any, did I do well there? And what would I do next time? If you see the warning signs, what would you do next time? But the same goes with a success. You go through exactly the same routine. Go, God, got a success. Why? Why was that successful? What did I do? Are there any weaknesses here? Could that have been a failure if I hadn't done this? You reflect on it again. There are quite a lot of professional bodies when you're applying for membership. I mean, I can only speak really in detail about the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. We have to keep a diary, a daily diary, and it's normally broken into morning and afternoon for 2 years. Now, at the time, I thought it was just a diary, saying I went here and did this, and I went here and this happened, and you recorded what happened and was good and bad. It was reflection, and I didn't know it at the time because they didn't call it reflection, but it was, and I learnt a lot from the diary. I found it a couple of years ago and had another look at it, and it was like, because it was a manual diary back then, and probably done with a fountain pen, and I was quite interested, especially when I saw I'd made the same mistake more than once. But I wasn't really reading it, was I? So academically, you should be reflecting on your units and your feedback for your assignments and any interactions, long conversations you have with a lecturer or somebody. You can reflect on that. Did I get this out? Do you think he was right? Do I need to clarify this? Oh, I understand why I didn't get a better mark on that. I'll remember that next time. So you need this reflection all the time. Now, there are 2 models that I can put forward to you on how to do it, because I like things formalised. I like them analytical and formalised, remember? So none of this woolly stuff. I like it set out. So this one here, didn't need to write anything about this one here. I just didn't want you to see me for a minute. You've got self-awareness, and I'm recommending go down there. This is from Southern Cross University. Go to the website so you can read it in more detail. But you've got your self-awareness, which is the core of you. There's a description. Was it an internal or external? We'll call it an event that you're reflecting on, shall we? The actual reflection takes place. What do you feel about it? What's your thoughts and feelings internally? What were the influences? Knowledge and the external, internal stuff. You evaluate it. You're trying to you analyse what happened. You're trying to come to some conclusions. And then you synthesise that to learn from it. And then you go around again. Okay? So that's really quite straightforward. But there's a better one, which I find a little bit easier to fill in. And that's the Gibbs reflective cycle. This one, I use this now. So I can actually, it developed 19 out. I'll just give you the rubbish there that came out. This will still be from Southern Cross, I think. Gives you a framework. Now I use this as headings in my because I had to keep one for my teacher training thing. You have to keep a reflective journal, and I use these as headings and then just filled in underneath each one. Use it as a template. So I had the strategies there. So I had the description, what happened, what is it I'm thinking about now, good or bad. What were my feelings about that? Now they don't have to be they can be emotional feelings as well. Evaluate it. What was good, what was bad. You're looking at the analysis, you analyse it now. You're trying to find out what you could have done differently if necessary, or what you did that was really good that you want to apply again somewhere else. Then you do your conclusion. Is there anything else that could have happened at the time? Were there any omissions or whatever? And then you have an action plan. What you're going to do next time if you come across this again. Now, I have one. I haven't put it up for this unit. I've got my initial reflective journal for the teaching, and I was reflecting over this unit I was doing, which was run by the education department lot, and I'm a hardened commercial surveyor. So there's already a misfit there possibly. When it came to filling in my feelings and that, and they told me to be really honest with it because I was the only person who's going to read it. Turns out that if I wanted a promotion, they'd read it, so I won't get promoted unless I rewrite it. I was using lots of four-letter words about, I wasn't very happy here. Actually, writing them down, there's a barrier between what's up here and what you write down. And I found out by using voice dictation, I use Dragon Naturally Speaking, it breaks that barrier down. So that's why I ended up with lots of colourful language. But when I go back and look at it, I instantly understand how I felt. And got me off the chest, made me feel a bit better as well. So doing this reflection can actually make you feel a bit better. So I recommend you use this one. And you just set up a one-page template with those headings and just fill things in underneath it. You could just print them out and just fill them in by... Ooh, does everybody know what a pen looks like? I'm taking the mickey, because I said earlier you're all into technology. I just shot myself in the foot by saying I use voice dictation. Much better if you're dyslexic, I have to say. So I recommend you use this one, and we'll talk about this in the tutorial as well if you want to. So we've now looked at motivation, okay, and professional reflection and leadership we did last week. We were going to go to negotiation, which I'm going to pick up for next week, but just mention negotiation is a little graphic to get you ready for next week. You're going to make an offer. Say you make an offer for providing a service. There's a counter offer. They want you to provide something a little bit different, but for the same money maybe. Then there's a concession. You go, oh well, I'll give you that, but it might cost you more or less. You might compromise eventually on the scope of the work you're going to undertake, and then you get an agreement. The one thing before next week I'd say is do not assume that negotiation is confrontational, because it's not. Okay, I can't get rid of it now, look. There we go. I'm going to go have a cup of coffee, and then I'm going to record week 5. So again, I'll be in the same clothes. There will be something different in the background, and you've got to spot it. That's a bit of fun. Oh, and notice there is, can't see if I get my chin there, look, there is the copyright there. Lucky I've got a big chin for the graphic. Okay? But you should see that in the PDF version I'll put up for you as well. So nice to chat to you. Remember, use Teams to raise any questions between each other, or let everybody know what you found, because you are a group, teamwork. You're not in competition with each other. You're there to help each other as peers. But make sure anything about this goes into the week 4, not the general thread. Okay? See you later.